How many trials did Jesus stand in before he was sentenced to death? Hi, I'm Pastor Horton. That is the same question that I was asking myself when I was preparing for my sermon this weekend. I found myself asking, was it 1, 2, maybe even 4? The answer is no, it's more than that. It was actually 6. Though, by Jewish standards of the time, they were all illegitimate. Let's get into it. The first 3 trials are what we call the ecclesiastical hearings. These were before the Jewish leaders. The first was before Annas, the former high priest, where Jesus was questioned about his blasphemy. This so-called blasphemy was Jesus claiming to be the Son of God, as well as the Messiah. He was found guilty during that. Then, the second was before Caiaphas and the Sanhedrin. Now, this one was at night, which is important. But it's also important to note that 2 false witnesses were brought before Jesus and testified against him. Now, the reason it was at night, and that being so important, is that the third of the ecclesiastical hearings was in the morning. This was before the Sanhedrin again, but it was more formalized so that they could properly bring the charges against Jesus. After that, we get into the Roman trials. Now, it's important to note that the Jewish leaders were trying Jesus for blasphemy. But in order to have charges brought against Jesus under the Roman rule and occupation, they had to change that. So they said Jesus claimed to be a king, which was treason and a danger to the Roman Empire. First, he went before Pontius Pilate. Pilate could not find Jesus guilty of treason as the leaders had said, and therefore sent him off to Herod. Now, this is not the same Herod as in the beginning of the Gospels. That was Herod the Great that wanted Jesus killed. Instead, this is Herod Antipas, which is Herod the Great's son. Now, this Herod mocked Jesus for being called a king, but ultimately could not find him guilty either. He then sent Jesus back to Pontius Pilate. After that, Pilate, using a way of pardoning around the time of Passover, attempted to free Jesus. But the Jews were so outraged by the blasphemy that they wanted Barabbas, I believe is his name, released instead. Ultimately, what truly set in motion the killing of Jesus, the laying down of his life, besides God's plan, was blackmail. It's really interesting to look at how that was done, and you have to look at the historical context. But the Jews there stated to Pilate that if Jesus claimed to be a king, and if Pilate let him go, then Pilate would be allowing another king to rise up, and as such, you are an enemy of Augustus Caesar. Because in the Roman Empire and during that time, Caesar was seen as a god king, that would be punishable by death. It would be treason, it would be heresy. And so, because of that blackmail, Pilate, despite being unable to find Jesus guilty of anything, still put Jesus to death. That is where we will pick up our sermon this weekend. I hope to see you there, and I cannot wait. I hope that you have a wonderful week. Please be sure to tune in tomorrow, and remember to share this with somebody else. And until next time, God bless.